I am wrapping up my semester project here with one follow-up video. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to tie this into the video that I've already submitted, or if this will be most likely, more often than not, or most likely be posted as a separate video. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you guys Mr. Springborg primarily, and everybody else who decides to watch this video, how I make these holsters. So we're out here in my garage. I'll pan back and forth here a little bit so you can see. There is one of my very specialized tools. That is my belt sander. Drill bits, sandpaper, a little C-clamp, measuring tape, a couple rulers, a T-square, miscellaneous bends with all my eyelets, rivets, snaps, etc. for my leather work and holsters and such. Leather work and Kydex work. This is kind of a built-in sink to one of my workshop desks. But right now it's being used for, besides the tin snips and a couple light bulbs in there, all my Kydex scrap pieces. I'm going to come over here to the heart of the operation. And see this right here. Actually, I'm going to lower the camera so maybe you guys get a better view as to what's going on here. Alright, so the heart of the operation here is a retired, no longer safe for food toaster oven. Actually, one of the most important pieces that you will need, of course, to form thermoplastics is being able to heat that thermoplastic up and then be able to form that thermoplastic. That being said, a good, high-quality toaster oven is not something that you necessarily need, but definitely some kind of toaster oven. And then what you definitely need, because especially this one is, like I said, no longer safe for food, it has been retired and then handed down to me, a digital thermometer, laser range finding, whatever you want to call it. Digital thermometer is imperative, especially with working with Kydex, because Kydex molds and forms perfectly between 300 and 350 degrees. I personally like to shoot for that 350 degree mark. Now, coming over here, the second most important part of the entire process is the press. And this press I've actually built. Not sure if that's, let's see what I can show you guys here about it, but this is an actual it's a piece of wood. It's actually a top to a shelf that I tore apart, and it's got two of these woodworking clamps that are slotted through it. I kind of actually improvised after seeing some Kydex presses, and without spending $80 on plywood and parts and tools, I figured, hey, you want to know what? I could just slap some 2x4s on the bottom of a scrap piece of wood here, drill some holes, cut some slots, slide these things in here, because this is another one of the specialized tools that I didn't have but borrowed from my dad's workshop, is these C-clamps, or these woodworking clamps, and voila, I have the basis of a press. Now the top of the press, of course, is going to be a piece that'll be right in here like so, and then it'll be sandwiched and squished, and I'll show you guys how all this works. And then along with that, the press, of course, needs a formable material to work around when you're wrapping this hot Kydex. And so what I have here is neoprene foam sheets. These are from Axeman Surplus. There's the bright orange sticker. These are a flexible neoprene style foam, approximately 1 inch thick. Did not feel like spending a lot of buco bucks from online distributors on a 1x1 sheet of neoprene foam, approximately $25 per piece, when at Axeman I can get one of these small circles for under $2. So breaking it back down to, this is not an assembly line, but by all means this is my production line. Moving down a little bit further, of course there's always going to be the need for safety glasses. Safety glasses are a must. These are my backup pair. I'm actually wearing mine right now. And I've also got my drill charger and my Dremel toolbox. I've also got some You notice those are kneeling pads for gardening, I believe. Is that they were purchased as, but unbelievably enough, they're the exact same kind of neoprene foam that you can use to use in a Kydex neoprene press, neoprene foam press. So, getting back to what this video is about. This video is about showing you guys how I, per request, am making, or will make, in front of you right now, front row seats, the coolest thing you'll ever see in your life. Maybe not, but I'm going to show you how I make a Kydex holster. So, first and foremost, I will show you guys, you guys saw this in the last video, but basically I'm going to be duplicating as close as I can without getting this video really long again. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet. I'm going to be duplicating this exact same holster right here. This is a gray Kydex material. This one's a black, as you can see. And this is the first leather prototype that I ever made, and that's getting thrown in the leather scrap bin. Maybe will be used at a different time and or date, but for all intents and purposes right now, I'm just going to duplicate the gray one. So down here, on top of my awesome garage fridge, you can see I've actually got, I got this as a kit. This is my 24 square feet of Kydex material in 1 by 2 foot square or rectangular sheets. I've got a variety of colors, including a gunmetal gray, an olive drab, a light gray, and then I've got a black. I also had an olive drab green, or an OD green, but that color is gone due to the popularity of it and some of the projects that I've already been working on. So let's just jump right into it, because this is just like all my videos, is a one take or no take kind of video. If I don't get it done in one take, I redo the whole thing over, because I don't know how to edit videos and I don't have that software and I don't have the time. So I'm going to go ahead and take these out of the way. I'm actually going to probably use this one just for reference, but put this one aside. So what I'm looking here to do, again, Kydex is a thermal plastic. It's very thin, pliable, bendable. And then when you heat it up, it actually forms quite nice, as I've shown you in the past. Not trying to be too redundant here, but just to kind of go over some of the basics. So what I've gone ahead and done here is I've got a scrap bit of 1 by 2 foot sheets, and I've already made one initial slice down the center of it, just to kind of get the general broad size of what I need for the back piece. Now, if you're thinking about it like this, I'm going to be using this whole piece here. Let me just get this part out of the way. That one's already pre-cut, so I'm going to set that one aside. So if you're looking at it like this, I'm going to be using this whole sheet of Kydex to make one holster. I'm going to kind of move you guys off to the side here a little bit, and I'm going to drop everything down, because I need my workspace, and I'm going to, as best as I can, try to explain what I'm doing and show you guys at the same time. So what I want to do here is kind of start making a trace outline. There's a smooth side. Let's see if the sheen right there. There's a smooth side, and then there's a rough side. I want the rough side out. For aesthetic reasons, color, shape, form, variety, etc. Simplicity is beauty. But I really like that hair cell, they call it a hair cell texture on the outside. I want that to be on the outside, and I want the shiny part. I'm going to pick up that sheen. I want the shiny smooth part on the inside. So I'm going to flip that puppy over, and the shiny side is going up. I'm going to kind of make a, using a white, here's just a white colored pencil. Maybe I'll raise this back up. Alright, 90% of this video is probably going to be moving my camera around, because I don't have somebody to make my camera person. So I'm just going to kind of do some rough sketches here, and kind of do a couple lines there, and then from this side I think I'm going to come from right there. I'm not sure how well that's going to pick up. Let's see. You can kind of see some of the sketches. It's actually designed with this. It doesn't. White colored pencil does not stick to. Doesn't stick and is definitely not permanent as far as the Kydex is concerned. But it gives me just some reference marks that I can kind of play with and mess around with. So just some rough sketches, ideas. Again, I'm going to be making this out of this. Crazy, right? Alright, let's get to it. So first couple things, and I talked about this in my initial video, but this is where it really comes into play. There's dominoes that need to take place in order for the holster to start taking shape without me having to do additional work and disassembly to make it what I want. So there are things that I need to do, like these pre-cuts right here, that need to be thought out well in advance before I actually throw this piece of Kydex into the oven. That being said, let's just go ahead and wing it. I'm gonna go ahead and, using those white markings that I just put on here, I'm gonna kind of pull a straight line, or as straight of a line as I think I want. And actually from that, I think I'm gonna go with an angle up that way. And I apologize if the sheen from my shop lights is kind of messing this up, and so you can't quite see exactly what I'm doing, but well, maybe you can. Yeah, I'm just going to keep going, and you guys follow along, and it is what it is, so enjoy. Make another slit over here on this side, just to kind of cut this corner piece off. Now both of those pieces are going to be, as you can see, material that is not going to be necessarily wasted, or not necessarily needed. One other cut that I do need to make, that I know I need to make, based on the only one restriction that I do have in my oven, is the size of my oven, which is really unfortunate, because if you start putting this stuff in your oven in your house, the same oven that you cook with, the same oven that you and your wife make delicious pizzas with, it stinks up the whole house, and you get some really, really bad looks from your wife. So there's a couple slits, or let's see if you can pick that up. There we go. Alright, so there's a couple marks, a couple notches. I kind of used an X-Acto blade to make some cuts into this sheet applied into this sheet of Kydex. Now what I'm going to do is basically fold it over and snap it. Now, without my pliers, it's a little bit more difficult. There we go. See how that just happened? So you can scar it, basically scar it, whatever you want to call it, and make a really nice clean line. And then it just pops right off. So that one wasn't too difficult. We'll try to do this corner one. Just like so. We'll snap that puppy off. Oops, see, I didn't make a clean cut right there. I didn't get all the way to the edge, and that's going to be a small problem, but not that big a deal. So, unfortunately, like I said, one take video. Can't go back now. Throw those into my scrap pile. Now for this one is a little bit trickier of a break. I could actually spend quite a long time cutting and cutting and cutting and try to get all the way through the Kydex material with many, many slices, but I've actually kind of taught myself a trick where if you get this side to break, it'll actually crack and break all the way down to that next corner that you need. So, I mean, the more and more I play with and work with this material, the more and more I'm impressed with it and really amazed by just how interesting it is. I mean, it's a plastic like we're learning about in chapter 13. And alright, so there we go. That's, from our rectangle, this is what we're working with now. This is kind of a rough outline. So what we're going to do, I'm going to set up my camera over here. I'm going to go right over to the oven. Plug my oven in, because I definitely don't trust this scary old thing to be plugged in when I'm not present. I'm going to turn that thing up to 350 degrees. So it says on the oven, but actually, in all reality, if you use the digital thermometer and you look at the heating elements on the inside, especially when fully cooking, this oven actually gets up to about 450 when it says 350. So that's why having a digital thermometer is absolutely key. The first couple holsters that I tried to make out of Kydex was a complete nightmare, and actually, I've got that piece of Kydex right here. If you overheat the Kydex, it rapidly, and I mean rapidly, within a few seconds, just turns itself into a really scrunchy, squished up piece of material that is no longer workable with it all. It did not keep its form or its shape of that rectangle that I was working with, and just immediately shrunk up and shriveled up and was absolutely useless from that point on. So that being said, like I said, the digital thermometer is absolutely key, and I also mentioned this before, but the 300 to 350 degrees is absolutely key, and especially from like I mentioned, Kydex is it's not only a product, it's also a manufactured material, if you will. So even from the manufacturers who make this product called Kydex, and it's not, the company's not called Kydex, but even to their specifications, this material molds and forms perfectly between 300 and 350 degrees. And again, what's really another interesting part about this material is it is designed for like interiors of aircrafts, for our seating and luxury. Easy to form and easy to, super lightweight, easy to kind of mold and bend and shape and form, and it's just a really interesting material. So as we're waiting for this to heat up, let's see if I can change my angle here a little bit. You can see that heating element is actually starting to get pretty warm. I'll check the temperature here. Right now we're at 330 degrees. What we're going to do, we're going to let that cool off just a little bit. We're going to put our piece in there. And we're going to let that piece kind of warm up. Close that oven so the light turns back on and the heating element is started up again. I'll let that sit for probably just about a minute. It's a very short time span between when you put the material in and when it's actually ready to mold. What you notice too is those neoprene sheets that I told you about are on top of the oven. It has been highly recommended through the processes that I've learned on how to do this and play with this stuff, that you kind of preheat those neoprene sheets. So when you put the Kydex material onto your foam or onto your foam press, or into your foam press, it's not quite a shock, if you will, to the material, and it doesn't set as fast, which is definitely key. So, what else can I say? Well, that's heating up. Over here, we'll start getting the press parts ready. I'm going to put this over this way so everybody can see from the oven to the press. I'll set this back over here just a little bit further. Again, I apologize for all the camera angles, but like I said, I don't have a camera person, so 90% of this video is going to be... See right there, we're already about 300 degrees, and the Kydex is starting to mold just a little bit. Starting to flap up. This is when we put on the heavy duty gloves, because 300 degrees is no joking matter. Oh, but before we put on the gloves, let me just go ahead and do this again. This is a safety checked firearm. You can see through there. Visually, physically, there's nothing in the chamber, no magazines even present for this Kydex mold, and that'll satisfy anybody else out there who would be watching who is a safety buff. So I'm going to take the bottom sheet of my neoprene foam and I'm going to lay it down. Check my temp just one more time. Oh yeah, you were definitely cooking. That's 330 degrees. We'll set the fire on there. You can actually see that we kind of shocked this piece of Kydex as it is, because you can kind of see how it's got that curve to it. It's actually not as ideal as one would think, but we're going to work with it. We're gonna see how this turns out. So, shiny side up, and you got to work quick when we're working this material, because it's It's extremely hot. I'll move this over here. Alright, the shiny side up. I'm going to place the firearm where I think I want it, relative to what I've been practicing with making these holsters. I'm also going to take this little piece of plastic, I'm going to call this a puck or a disc. I'm going to put that up in the trigger guard area, or up in front of the trigger guard, and I'll show you guys why in just a little bit. I'm going to fold this part over, kind of do some adjustments as I'm working here. Very, very hot, 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 hot. Don't worry about me though. I'm an auto mechanic for a long time. I have a pretty high tolerance for pain. So, holding that in place very, very firmly. I'm going to remove my hand. Let's drop this down so you guys can see what I'm doing as I'm doing it potentially. I'm giving myself some clearance again, working that front sight clearance that I talked about in my first video. I'm going to try to keep that as steady as possible and squish those two pieces of foam together using C-clamps. Sorry if you didn't catch that here. I'll back up a little bit. There we go. So now we got the C-clamps are down. I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure. And as I'm doing this, I'm checking to see, not sure if you can even see this if I got the tripod all the way down, but I'm checking to see that the pieces of the neoprene foam aren't moving as I'm squishing these together, and that everything is being pressed evenly. Only having two of these C-clamps on either side offers me the affordability of the speed that I need, but it does not offer the affordability of the even pressure that I would need if I were doing a larger piece. I would want two more slots with two more of these wood clamps in there, so I could actually like push on all four corners or on all four sides equally. But for what it is for right now, this is just like everything. It's a working prototype. So, coming back over here, I'm going to turn off my oven. I'm going to unplug it because again I don't trust it. Well, that's cooling. Actually, this Kydex material takes quite a long time to cool. So, just like every good YouTube tutorial or video tutorial that you would ever find out there, I've already got one done. So, again, talking about that puck that I included in there, the reason why I included that in there is you can see it's definitely pressed and molded in there. And as you can see on this one that's already finished, there's a reason for that puck to be there, that little plastic insert to be there, and that's so I got a little bit more of a rise to put in that pocket clip. And that pocket clip is going to go right in the center, right there, where I put that puck. So that is something that has to be pre-thought of and put into the pre-design. So keep on working with what we got while the one that actually just came out of the oven is cooling. I'm going to go over here and do some rough cuts and get some of the stuff out of the way and move my camera. Hello. Alright. Alright, so as you can see, I kind of have pretty much exactly what I want and where I want it. I can kind of make some assumptions on what I want to trim off. And just because this isn't going to be, another showpiece, I'm going to go ahead and make some rough sketches with this this white colored pencil because I know that it actually rubs off quite nicely, so it comes off without too much scrubbing. I'll make some sketches here and there. A little bit more like that. I think I want to trim this down even further, just based on my previous designs. This is actually going to get shaved up here, and this is actually going to get shaved back along that side. And I'm not so worried about this side, because as you can see with this giant piece that I make, that what I talked about earlier, that sweat guard is what my thumb's on right now. I can't shave or sand this side on the belt sander because this part is in the way. So that's another part of that pre-design that I cut out ahead of time, so I didn't have to try to sand this part, if that makes any sense to you. It's kind of a technical design aspect that you have to really play with a lot to understand that that's really, really important if you don't want to spend a lot of time sanding and using the Dremel and using tin snips to cut and mess around with this material. It's just a huge pain. So I'm going to shut up for a couple seconds because my belt sander, it's one of my very best friends that anybody could have, is actually quite loud. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. And as I turn this thing on, of course, you're going to lose the sound and the audio. Oh, before I do that, I did want to make a couple of these initial cuts. Just quickly. So, again, I'm just going to pull with that X-Acto knife. Make some pre-cuts so I don't have to sand and sand and sand a lot of that material off. To save me quite a bit of time of what I call these pre-cuts. Of course, this is extremely crude, and I'm trying to go as fast as I possibly can just to keep this a short video for you guys. But there you go. I mean, the material's off, and it gives us a basis to bring over to the sander. There we go. All right, here we go. Initial buff cut. The stuff just gets everywhere. As you can imagine, it's sanded down plastic. Alright, so getting back over to a little bit more clean spot on my workstation. You can see that just with those few grinds, I've actually... Alright, so I don't know what happened there, but for whatever reason my video just stopped. So I'm assuming I am either out of space, because I'm definitely not out of battery. So I'm just going to wrap this up here and try to blend these two videos together using some YouTube editing. But as you can see, when I just took this off, and this is extremely rough cut, just off the sander, I basically have the exact same shape that I want. There's going to be some more fine cutting, or fine grinding, if you will, to get some of this, some of these more curves and recurves kind of put into this piece, and as well as a few more aesthetic pieces. You can see there's a little bit more of a curve and a sweep right here on this one. A lot more blending and curving. I got some actual pieces of plastic that I'll cut off. I call that like slag, like you'd see in welding. So I go around, and actually what I'm going to do to this holster now, which I'll spare you guys from doing, is just explain exactly the rest of the bits, because this is exactly what I want out of it for what it is right now. But I will actually spend probably the next hour or two sanding and resanding and figuring out the final little details on the bench grinder, or the belt sander, as well as hand sanding and the Dremel, and kind of really polishing and cleaning up these. First I use like an 80 grit sandpaper, and then I'll use like a 120 or 140, 160 grit sandpaper to really polish these up. After that, I'll actually use a green Scotch Brite pad, to really blend off. As you can see, maybe this will show up. You really want to get rid of, or at least what I've been learning is that I'd really like to get rid of all the tool markings and make this as smooth and as shiny as possible on those edges. And you can kind of see, maybe I'll kind of pick it up there, but would really like this to be, the final product, especially if I'm, making this for somebody. I'd really like it to be something I'd be proud of. So that actually takes quite a long time to sand and buff and polish, and I keep on going back and forth. The rest of it's really easy, actually, especially even like this holster. Drill a couple holes, drill a hole here, insert some tools and some hardware. Here's one of those belt clips I was talking about. Here's the screws that I'll probably be using. Just throw it together. That part's super easy, but I'm going to cut the video off right here because, like I said, I think I just ran out of memory for whatever reason. And we'll see how this works. I hope you guys enjoyed this crazy cool project of mine. I know I am still really enjoying it, and I got plans to make a lot of other stuff. I already started making some knife sheaths, as well as I got some plans to make actually some really cool stuff I'm actually looking forward to. It's a Leatherman multi-tool holster, a flashlight holster for some everyday carry kind of belt rigs, if you will. I also got it in mind that this formable thermoplastic that I call Kydex is going to be really cool to use as a portable on, or snap on and snap on again, or snap on and snap off again style bike fender for mud and grit and stuff. Bike fenders and stuff are out there, but something else to play with. Why not? I got the time. Definitely got the material, and I've kind of been playing with the skills and the knowledge and the know-how. So again, I will ask. We'll see who replies or responds, if you will. But if you guys got any questions, any kind of comments, concerns, thoughts, anything like that, please feel free to leave it in D2L or on the YouTube comment page, because either way, I will see it and I will get back to you, and thanks for watching.